Greetings, comrades. More capital for you. We are still on chapter 25. Section 5 is a doozy. Sections 5B, 5C, and 5D. And this is, I actually really enjoy when he kind of goes deeper into current conditions, specifically it's usually in Britain, in England, at Marx's time in the mid-1800s. 5B is badly paid strata of the British industrial class. C is the nomad population, and D is the effects of crisis on the best paid part of the working class. There's a lot of crossover between these things, but that's how he separates it out. So here we begin 5B talking about nutrition or malnutrition, essentially. There was a bit of a hang-up. We had a discussion where he talks about nutrition in terms of carbon and nitrogen. And this is just nutritional science at his time wasn't what it is now. But what we kind of deduced is that carbon, when he talks about that, is essentially carbohydrates, and nitrogen is protein. But really, even if the numbers seem difficult for us to fully understand when we think of things in like kcals nowadays, basically, the numbers he's using just show that people aren't getting enough of whatever you want to call it. The working people are underfed and malnourished. They are, working people hungry, worse for agricultural workers than factory workers. And he's just giving examples of that. Malnutrition leads to disease. And for all their lack of food, they had even less clothing and fuel. The filthy working conditions of this industrial working class as compared to the extravagant consumption of the rich. And this industrial centralization of the means of production led to a heaping together of the working class. The rent was too damn high, thanks to the landlord class. And so people are living in these close packed like shanty towns, and walking like 2 miles to go to the factory and having to walk back. And you think about like walking 4 miles a day burns a lot of calories as well. These people just aren't able to replenish what they are burning. Disease spread so rapidly. Tuberculosis outbreaks were very common. A lot of people died, due to these like close packed housing with lack of airflow. There's no fresh air. People are just like cram packed in. So that's the industrial class. The nomad population, this is referring to more like agricultural workers. Modern day, we might think of these as migrant workers, right? A lot of people come to specifically like California and Texas, right, to work in agriculture. And he calls them the light infantry of capital. These are people that are working for very little, and the capitalists exploit that and use it to their advantage, of course. These people were kind of shoved into camps, is what he called them, and again, just full of disease. These people don't have hardly any space. They have children crammed into like one bedroom. They're not even shacks even. They're just like, sorry, there's a mosquito. It's mosquito season here. So because people are so crammed into these places, smallpox is spreading. At the time, coal miners were the best paid of the proletariat, and they built these camps just like right up to the mine entrance. It was very, very dangerous for them. And then 5D, we're talking about mass unemployment that happened in 1866. And he talks about workers bragging about who can work the longest without food. And this is, again, something we see today, maybe not explicitly about food, but you see, especially online discourse, people brag about having to work so many hours or having so many jobs or not sleeping enough, as if that's a flex to be exploited, right? There's a lot of hopelessness at the time. The suffering families of the working men he talks about here, lots of people dying of hunger. And he compared these conditions that these families were living in to those of the soldier, the sailor, or the prisoner. And then he gets into how much like square footage or whatever these people really like lived on or lived in with their whole family, and they actually had less space than prisoners of the time, and the prisoners at least didn't have to pay rent, right? Like that housing, as terrible as it was then, and as terrible as it is now, in our prison system, these people didn't have to pay rent, at least, and they had about the same amount of space as a working class family did at the time. Nearly half of the working class families lived as paupers. So like poor, like what we might consider below the poverty line, right? Like just extreme poverty conditions for the working class then and now as well, because a lot has changed, you know, but a lot hasn't. And the working class is still suffering under the boot of capital. Cheers, y'all.